Actually, here's a question for you. What do you call the little stringy bits on a banana?
What do you call the little stringy bits on a banana?
I have absolutely no idea, but I'm going to find out. I just saw you peeling them off one by one, and I thought I need to find that out. That's my
If you've just joined
assignment
us,
for the day.
you'll see what a delightful pair we are. I'm Gyles Brandreth, and this is Susie Dent, and I've just been eating a banana, and Susie is going to find out what the little stringy bits in a banana are called.
Oh, there you go. There's annoying banana strings, I'm told, are called phloem. I'm not sure if this is how you pronounce it. P-H-L-O-E-M.
Phloem.
Otherwise known as musa fibre, and it's
Musa fibre.
Their job is to distribute nutrients up and down the banana as it grows, apparently. I'm just reading this straight from the web. Its root is from the Greek word for bark. Isn't that lovely? I didn't know that.
That's the point of this particular podcast. Welcome to it. This is called Something Rhymes with Purple. It's about the power of words and language. We're a pair of verbivores, we're wordaholics. Susie Dent is my companion. She's my guru, my leader. She's the lady that you may have seen over the last few decades sitting in Dictionary Corner on Countdown and on 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown. She's a world authority on words and language. She's taught in America, researched in America. She's currently touring the United Kingdom with an amazing show called The Word Detective.
Secret Lives of Words.
The Secret
I'd
Lives
love
of
to call
Words.
it The Word Detective and then have a business card with a deerstalker on it.
Yeah, and you are the
Next one.
You are the word detective, and I'm Gyles Brandreth. I'm just a word enthusiast, and I was feeling this is such a lovely podcast. We've had such wonderful feedback from people that we're quids in, and I thought, quids in. Maybe that should be our theme today. Let's talk about money. Mm-hmm. Quids in. Is that something to do with money?
Well, yes. And quid itself is one of our oldest words and denominations and slang terms for money. It means a pound, obviously, and it comes from the Latin quid meaning what, with what you need being the you need being the unspoken add-on. What you need in order to survive.
Is
quid.
Money. Quid.
Yes.
And is there a whole language around the world of money? I mean, money, they say, makes the world go round. We all need money, though interestingly, Sigmund Freud, the great father of psychoanalysts, he tells us that money is not a fundamental need. We need all sorts of things. We need food, we need comfort, we need love. We don't essentially need money. So some people are driven...
How's your banana?
It's fine.
I think we need a certain amount.
We certainly need a minimum amount to get by.
Yes.
But that's to do with needing warmth and comfort and security. Yes. That we're not driven by a need for money of itself. Do you come from a moneyed family?
No, I don't actually. My grandparents were. They had very simple lives. My grandfather was a butcher, which is slightly strange for me as a vegetarian. But no, I definitely don't come from a moneyed family. And my dad worked very, very, very hard to make what he could. But no, I think your family may be a little bit, well, in fact, a lot wealthier than mine.
Well, my family has been a roller coaster family.
Okay.
I have very poor members of my family, and I've had very rich members of my family. Indeed, one of my forebears was one of the richest people in the world.
Wow. Oh, is
Which
this the
really
one
is
that
saying
patented
something.
the magic pills?
This is the man. My great-great-great-great-grandfather left Liverpool in the early 1830s, went to America, changed his name, called himself Dr. Benjamin Brandreth. He was no more of a doctor than I am.
Was he a Brandreth, though?
He wasn't even a Brandreth. He was a Holmes, interestingly.
Oh.
But his mother was a Brandreth, and his grandfather had made a medicine. And he took the recipe, a little vegetable pill. He took the recipe for this medicine to America, and he began manufacturing Brandreth's pills as cure-alls, whatever problem you had.
So he was a quack?
He was a quack. He was a pioneering quack, except that they were like a homeopathic remedy. They were vegetable pills. They didn't do any harm. Whatever,
Oh, okay.
heart
Placebo.
disease, take a Brandreth's pill.
They're
Want a
placebo.
baby? Take a Brandreth's pill. Don't want a baby? Take 2 Brandreth's pills. And people really said that they worked. And he became, literally, one of the wealthiest people in America. He became a friend of Gordon Bennett, who is somebody who is a bit of an eponymist, because Gordon Bennett is a kind of exclamation, isn't it?
Yes.
And Gordon Bennett was the editor of a New York newspaper.
He was a playboy as well.
Was he?
Lots of yachts, fast cars, women.
and a great friend of my great-great-great-grandfather. Gordon Bennett basically made his fortune in the New York Post, or whatever his newspaper was, because my great-great-great-grandfather pioneered...
Actually, I don't think they had fast cars then. Correction.
No,
fast vehicles.
Fast vehicles, horse-drawn carriages. But the point is, my great-great-great-grandfather spent a lot of money advertising these Brandreth spills, helped make Gordon Bennett his fortune, was much admired by P.T. Barnum, who wrote a chapter in his book about confidence tricksters, about the genius of my great-great-great-great-grandfather. And when he died, he was one of the richest people in America and therefore in the world.
Good grief.
He had about 16 children. This is the point of the story.
Okay, and they were all very wealthy, no?
They were initially all very wealthy. Some of them married incredibly well. One of them, one of his grandsons-in-law, became America's first billionaire, founded the Texaco Oil Company in the 1930s. Others didn't do so well, such as my great-grandfather, who came back to Britain to run the English end of the company, who I'm afraid went through all the money, spent lavishly, was a good Christian soul, built a lot of churches, and so that by the time he got round to my father and grandfather, there was no money left at all. So 100 years ago, we were a hugely rich family, and now we have nothing.
I don't know. Well, you have something. I have been to your house. It's a lovely, lovely house. It's not all bad.
No, it's not all bad. But the point is, I've not inherited anything.
No.
Whatever I've got, I have earned, and I think
Good for you.
I like earning money, I suppose.
Yes.
I mean, in fact, people say to me, why are you still working at your age? And I say, I need the money. I've discovered over the years that money is the one thing keeping me in touch with my children. So tell us about the language of money, please.
Wow. Well, there are so many. I'll start with money itself. Now, this is quite interesting. It's quite a lesson, really, for us all. So money goes back to the Latin and the Roman moneta, originally the name of a goddess in whose temple in Rome money was coined. Moneta also gave us mint, of course, as well as money.
And who was Moneta? Was a person?
She was a goddess. So she's associated quite often with Juno, if you know your mythology. And it is
I know Juno-esque are still large people are described as being Juno-esque.
Well, that's very true. That's very true. But yeah, but one of her names, I think she had many, was Moneta.
Moneta.
And that's where we get
Moneta.
Yeah, that's where we get money from. But interestingly, if you go back, we think that moneta itself goes back to the Latin monere, which meant to warn, which means that money and warning are linked. They're siblings.
Money and warning.
Well, not warning itself, but money and the original Latin root. It's all about warning people, perhaps about the evils of money. But I would just say that if you look at all the slang terms for money, it's vast. What people always say about slang is that its waterfront is narrow, but it's very, very deep. And slang, together with sex and drugs, it's one of the major themes that you will find in slang. And there are so many. You just dig for slang terms and you find literally hundreds. So dosh. Perhaps
What's the origin of dosh?
One of the most recent additions to the money lexicon. Dosh, it may be a blend of dollars and cash, but actually we think it's most likely to come from dos, a place to sleep if you're dossing somewhere.
As in dossing down?
Yes, hence you need somewhere.
You need some dosh?
You need some money. You need some dosh in order to be able to doss. Notes.
Notes?
You talk about notes.
Well, notes made of notes. When did the note come into
1600s, but it was short for a promissory note. In other words, you promised to pay a particular sum at a particular time.
As it says on the note to this day, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of. It is a promise. That's the piece of paper is an undertaking.
Exactly.
That was a promissory note, and that's so it's a note.
It's a note. Cash goes back even further. 15th century, a cash was a merchant's chest or money box, and then it was transferred to the contents thereof. And if you go to the denominations, so if you're talking about fivers or we've mentioned quid, etc., tenors, etc., sometimes those go back centuries as well.
Hold on. So a quid is a pound. A fiver
is a pound.
Is a fiver a dollar?
A fiver is, a £5 note for us. The dollar, oh gosh, look at the dollar. If you look at the slang thesaurus for the dollar, you'll find lots of green vegetables because, of course, after Abraham Lincoln coined the dollar, It was green, and so it was known as the greenback for quite a long time.
Oh, forgive me. Where does the dollar come from?
Well, it's interesting because it was the English name for the German Thaler, which was a large silver coin that was used in the German states around the 16th century. And then it made its way to this, I think it was the name for the piece of 8 or the peso, which was used in the British American colonies. And then it went on to become the standard unit of, here we go, gold and silver coinage of the USA. This was in 1782, where Thomas Jefferson says, the unit or Spanish dollar is a known coin and the most familiar of all to the mind of the people. It is already adopted from south to north. So it had a huge journey before it came into America, but it all started in the German states as the Thaler.
So that's how we get the dollar.
That's how we get the dollar. So it was, I think, short for Joachimsthaler. So it was the coin of Joachimsthal, which was in Bohemia at the time.
And the reason that there's so much slang around money is because, like sex, it's fundamental. We all need money.
It's a staple of life, which is why you will find so many terms for money linked to food stuff. So we talk about bread, obviously we talk about dough. It's also the sweetener of life. So you'll hear it talked about as jam, cake for some people, or biscuit. So
how
it's
far
quite
back
often
does,
likened to food.
How far back does this go? I mean, I need more dough, meaning I need more money.
Dough as money is probably, I'm going to check this in for everyone listening. I can't live without the Oxford English Dictionary. I have it on my phone. I carry it around with me in an online sense. It's the best thing in the entire world. And I'm now looking up dough to see when it was first. It's the first record that we have to do with money. Keep talking, Gyles. So it's just a very long entry.
I find money totally uninteresting. But I've been free of thinking about money for some years, because some years ago, when I became an MP, my wife saw that we were spending more than I was earning, because I was a full-time MP. And I'd been earning more when I wasn't an MP and suddenly became an MP. And I think when I became an MP, MPs were paid something like £37,000 a year. And we found we were running out of money. And my wife said to me, you are steering the ship of state that is the Brandreth family and finances towards the rocks.
Oh dear.
You turnip. And she said, I'm going to have to do something about this. So my wife literally took from me our checkbook. We had a checkbook in those days, the credit cards and everything, confiscated them, and took over the family finances.
Good for Michelle.
And from that day, in the early 1990s to this, I have had nothing to do with the family finance. And she has sorted out everything. This has freed me up incredibly. I don't know how much I earn. I do lots of, I'm busy all the time, so I know I'm earning money. And it goes into her account. She sorts it. She pays the VAT. She pays the tax. And she pays all the bills. And so I'm a totally free person.
Lovely.
Which is lovely.
It's quite liberating.
It's liberating. The only downside is that I can't give her a present without her knowing exactly how much it's cost. I literally can't.
Yeah.
Because she gives me, I have a little bit of cash, which she gives me, a tenner. And I do have a credit card for emergency use, but it's her credit card.
Good grief.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a kept man.
So I'm totally a kept person, but it is incredibly liberating. And
it's interesting that you carry cash. I do not carry cash at all. So in the lexicon of money, the only really new terms that we've got, because most of them, as I say, go back centuries, are to do with contactless. So, contactless itself, swiping, if you still swipe. But I never have cash on me. Ever.
Where does cash come from as a word?
The French for a money box. 16th century.
Cachet or something, is it?
It was caisse.
Caisse, as in caisse.
La caisse.
Dans la caisse.
And then it was transferred to
C-A-I-S-S-E is la caisse, becomes cash.
Dough. So you asked me about where. Yeah. Dough is first recorded in the OED from 1848 in a dictionary of Americanisms, where it also gives you tin, kelter, dimes, and rocks. But dough has obviously definitely survived and then crept into to British English soon thereafter.
We're in the money. Does money interest you?
I wouldn't say it interests me. I think one of the key things really for all of us is that the real language, not the slang, but the sort of the standard language, if you like, of the financial word is so alienating, isn't it? Do you remember all that talk during the credit crunch of deleveraging? Do you remember all of that? It meant nothing.
It meant nothing to
any
me.
of us.
And
No.
also, what was that thing that they did where they poured more money into it to make more money into the system?
Oh, yes.
What was that called? We can't even
I can't even remember.
We were so out of it, we didn't even know what it was about.
Which I think is why we come up with so many slang terms, because that makes it sound more manageable. We feel more confident, less uncomfortable. Because
these
the
hedge
N-word,
fund people, I think, are just into. It sounds like gambling to me. It looks like gambling to me.
It's
but
figures,
they dress it up in these terms like hedge fund, and somehow.
Well, it's tribal, and some of it, I'm sure, is very useful shorthand within the tribe. But for most of us, when actually it's quite important that we do understand what's going on with our government and our finances, for most of it is, as I say, utterly alienating.
I found
and
it so
a lot
perplexing.
needs to be done.
When I went to university, I went to do politics, philosophy, and economics at Oxford, and the first year was economics, and I thought, this is impossible. I don't understand this, and so I gave it up. Which is, of course, why I ended up when I was an MP at the Treasury. Knew nothing about what was
That
going
makes
on.
sense.
You don't really
speaking of
need
the
to.
Treasury, I'll give you a nice word origin. Exchequer.
Yes.
Okay, do you know where that comes from?
No.
Okay, it goes back centuries again to the checked tablecloths used by the royal accountants who would count the king's money with counters, and they would move these counters from one check to another on this tablecloth. And they were known as the keepers of the exchequer, the keepers of the check tablecloth, and eventually that meant the keeper of the money in every way.
I wish I'd
lovely?
known that because I worked at the Exchequer.
Did you?
Well, I became eventually, when I was in government, Lord Commissioner of the Treasury.
Wow.
And the Lord Commissioner of the Treasury is the person who signs the government checks.
This is very ironic, given that actually
was
you don't
hopeless.
manage any of the money in your household.
If I don't manage, I can't be trusted. My results
Now he
at
tells us.
GCSE for maths were appalling. I abandoned economics at university. My wife confiscated the checkbook.
Who
from us,
appointed you?
But I was appointed by the then Prime Minister, who was John Major, and I worked for Kenneth Clarke when he was the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And I was the Lord Commissioner. And the job of the Lord Commissioner is to sign the government cheques. The last cheque I signed was for £136 billion. Serious money in those days. And they said with these huge multi-billion-pound cheques, you can't sign the cheque alone. There has to be a co-signatory. I said, who will that be? They said it would be the head of the Treasury. It's HM Treasury. The head of the Treasury is the Queen. So I would go along to Buckingham Palace with the government chequebook to sign these huge cheques with Her Majesty. The first time we did this, I wasn't sure which of us should sign the cheque.
Who should check the cheque? Or going back to those
Sign it
checks on the
first.
tablecloth.
Exactly. And I felt I couldn't patronise the Queen just because she's a woman, or say, after you. Indeed, I didn't want to pull rank on her either because I was the elected one. Anyway, she was holding the pen. She seemed to think she should sign first. But the last time we did this, when we signed this cheque for £136 billion, Social Security payments first quarter, I said to the Queen, Your Majesty, the way the government insists on the two of us signing these huge cheques, I can't help wondering, Your Majesty, which of the two of us it is the government doesn't entirely trust. She had no answer to that.
Did she laugh?
Sort of. It wasn't a big belly laugh, I have to confess.
It wasn't a boffler.
No, but you're right. The world of finance is a closed world to me. And
Yes.
And it's done deliberately, you're saying.
I think it is. It is deliberately obfuscating so that it creates this linguistic gap and we don't really understand what's going on, as I say. And I think that's why we love a bit of banter when it comes to money. So I'm going to give you some Cockney rhyming slang here.
Oh, good.
Okay. What is a cock and hen?
A cock and hen, it's to do with money.
Yes.
Cock and hen, is it 10? A tenner?
Half of 10.
Cock and 10 is half of 10.
Yeah,
it's a fiver.
It's a fiver.
Oh,
Likewise,
interesting.
Jacks. Jack's alive, 5, or Jackson 5, perhaps. 5.
Jack's alive, 5.
Okay. An Ayrton.
An Ayrton. Ayrton Senna, it's a tenner.
Very, very good.
I guessed that one.
Very good. All right, this one is almost impossible to work out. And if you can, I will be so impressed. A Commodore.
A Commodore. Is it to do with an eagle? A bird?
No,
Is it to do
that's
with a
a really
ship?
good guess. No, it's to do with
Give us a
the
clue.
band called the Commodores.
Oh, the Commodores, I've heard of them.
What's their most famous song? Any idea?
I don't know.
All right, let's go back to the beginning. So, the Cockney rhyming slang for a fiver was once a Lady Godiva,
Yes.
shortened to Lady. The group the Commodores, probably best known for their song 3 Times a Lady. Do you remember that one?
3 times a lady, so it's
Once,
15
twice,
quid.
3 times a lady. It is 15 quid. Isn't that clever?
And that is very
I love
clever.
that. A Commodore. Pavarotti?
Pavarotti, feeling grotty. I
No,
don't know.
it's
What's
actually,
a
again,
Pavarotti?
Pavarotti was one of the tenors, the three tenors.
Of course
It's
he
a tenor.
was.
It's a
Absolutely.
tenor.
you
And
know,
a
people,
Archer. Did
people
you know
who-
Jeffrey Archer in your time?
I know Jeffrey Archer. Jeffrey Archer is a friend of mine, but finishing
Okay.
on Pavarotti,
Oh, yes.
those big tenors, you know, not necessarily them, not necessarily Pavarotti himself, but I worked at the Opera House once, and there was a tenor who wouldn't be paid, he wouldn't sing until he was paid in cash in the wings before the performance.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to try that next
And he
time.
was actually stuffing the money, this is true, into his padded outfit, into his tights. They paid him the Maluka. Oh, that's a good slang word, is it Maluka? Filthy Maluka? Filthy Luca.
Filthy Lucas from the Bible, whereas Mula is from British troops that came back from Egypt, from an Arabic word.
So they get them come together.
I've never heard of Maluka. I think you've just invented that, haven't you? But I like it.
Filthy Luca is money from the Bible, is it?
Yes. Well, lucre was first used for money in the 14th century translation of the Bible, and then filthy lucre came a little bit later. So dishonourable gain, really, isn't it? And it goes back to, I was surprised by this, the old High German Lohn, meaning wages or reward. I thought it had something to do with Latin, but I was wrong there.
Do you give your children pocket money?
I do.
And
Well, my eldest is kind of, she's sort of earning herself now a little bit in a holiday job, but my
how much do they
youngest,
expect nowadays? I mean,
a fiver, really,
oh,
I think. Well, not the oldest. The oldest is earning a lot more for herself, but yeah, I think my youngest, I give a fiver a week.
when I was
I don't know
a
if that's stingy or not.
when I was a little boy, I used to get a penny a day.
A penny a day.
A penny a
Oh.
day. That was 5 pence in the week, but this is the old money.
Okay.
When it was pounds, shillings, and pence.
Yes.
And a penny a day was enough for me to get a little chocolate bar or a penny chew.
Penny chews.
And you could buy a double-sized gobstocker.
Gobstoppers.
Gobstopper
Oh, I
for a
love
penny.
gobstoppers. You can still buy gobstoppers.
And there were, in my day, there were halfpennies, farthings, pounds, shillings, and pence.
I love that.
So where did pounds and shillings and pence? I know where they went to. They went in the 1960s, didn't they? But where were shillings? What were they named after?
Okay,
That's
so-
German again, isn't it?
Shilling is, they're all so old. Shilling was first applied to a sovereign, I think, and in certainly in modern terms, but it says it's from the Norman Conquest originally, and it's linked to a Viking word. So very, very old, I would say, shilling.
Do you know, Susie, what a guinea is?
No. Pound is quite interesting. I'll come back to that in a minute. Guinea, no, tell me.
You don't know what a guinea is?
Well, I know it's a unit of currency.
But that's amazing. It just shows you the difference in a generation, how quickly things
But
can
it says
change.
an English gold coin, not coined since 1813, Giles.
No.
It's not that old.
But interestingly, when I first worked for the BBC, which is, I agree, 50 years ago, you were paid in guineas.
No.
Yes, you
This
were.
is mentioned in Samuel Pepys's diary.
Of
You
course
are
it's mentioned. Don't be ridiculous. Guineas went on, and indeed, there are races, horse races today, still called
I know.
the 1,000 guineas.
That's true.
Do you know what a guinea is? I can't believe
£1
you don't know.
and 5 pence, apparently.
It is a pound and a shilling.
There we
One
go.
pound, 1 shilling, which would now be £1 and 5 pence.
And it was
Absolutely.
coined in Guinea, I'm guessing.
And I don't know why it's called. That's what I want. That's what I'm asking you. But since you never heard of it,
No.
you're supposed to be. The people tune into this, Susie Dent, because they think it's Susie Dent being interrupted by Gyles Brandreth. And in fact, I meant to interrupt you because you don't know. What is the origin of guinea?
I think it was coined in Guinea, but it ultimately says in the OED, origin unknown. So that he doesn't know either.
Well, there we
The
are.
wonderful
If the
dictionary, or
OED
she.
doesn't know,
No.
if the OED doesn't know, you are excused.
Pound is a nice one. I'll quickly tell you that one.
Yes.
Pound comes to the ancient Roman libra, of course. You remember scales and the star sign Libra. And
that's why the-
Libra Pondo was literally a pound in weight. It was a very, very heavy amount of money. And LB eventually became the abbreviation.
And
Libra
that's
Pondo.
why the pound sign, because one of my grandchildren was saying to me the other day, Grandpa, why is the pound sign this letter?
Yes.
This funny thing. And I said, it is because a pound was libra.
Yes.
That is the L for
Yes.
libra.
Yes.
I wasn't sure what the two little lines across it
The
are.
two little lines were to show that it was an abbreviation. That's what they were doing. And
Very
LB, in terms of, unit of weight,
weight.
of flour, etc., is Libra Pondo.
Very good.
Apparently, you have a lovely story to tell me about Richard Branson.
No, I don't have a lovely story to tell you about Richard Branson, but it is the explanation of why I'm still working at my great age.
Okay.
Because I had an opportunity that I didn't take up. When I was 17 and at school, I got a letter from Richard Branson, the Richard Branson, who was then 16. And he invited me. He knew about me. We'd been corresponding. I was editing my school magazine, and he was editing his school magazine. And that's how we got in touch. And he invited me to come to his parents' flat at Hyde Park Corner. And I went and I met Richard Branson, and we got on reasonably well. We were both young, we were teenagers, and I was thin, he was even thinner. And he seemed to me like a monkey, because he couldn't stop moving. He was sort of running around the room all the time, so almost swinging from the chandeliers. And he had long hair, this is the sort of mid-60s, early 60s. And he had this long hair, and he was very thin and wiry, and he was jumping all over the place. And he was saying, look, we should go into business together, you and me. And he proposed that we start a company together. And that we raised £50 each, quite a lot of money in those days, and you could buy a company off the shelf. It's called buying a company off the shelf, and it would cost you £100. You'd have half the shares each. So the idea was that we would have a business together, and it would be a publishing business. And I looked at this monkey, and I thought to myself, I didn't say this, you're going nowhere, mate. You, because he said to me, we've got to leave school. I said, we can't leave school. I said, I'm just doing my A-levels. I said, when you're doing A-levels, he said, I don't want to do A-levels. I said, you've got to do A-levels. I said, I'm going to university. He said, don't waste your time going to university. Let's get out, let's get going. I said, Richard, you are going nowhere. I am going somewhere. I am going to university. And so Richard and I parted, and we didn't go into business together 50-50. And occasionally, as I'm disappearing down into the Hammersmith and City line on the Underground, near where I live, his rather attractive Bentley pulls up, and the electric window goes down, and he raises a single finger to me and greets me for old time's sake.
That last bit has got to be a bit of embellishment, but
No,
I love the image.
It hasn't. Actually, he's sending me up. We do still know one another. But that's happened to me more than once, because when I was at university, I went into business with another friend of mine called Colin Sanders.
And flopped.
And, well, no.
Oh.
Well, we went into business together. We each had £50 in the same company. And we put on Sonnet Lumiere. Have you heard of Sonnet Lumiere?
Yes.
It's got a history lesson in the rain.
Yeah.
And we killed it. And there's no longer Sonnet Lumiere in this country. We did the last of the great
but
Sonnet
peaceful
Lumieres.
in France.
But anyway, it was a French idea, and we brought it to Britain. Anyway, I said to him, we're going nowhere with this business. We're going absolutely nowhere. He made the electric systems to make the lights go up and down with the sound. And so I gave him my £50 of the company. He sold the company for £70 million.
Oh.
Isn't that amazing?
That is really amazing.
But he was
I don't have any stories like that.
He was very nice. And when I had another business, which also went belly up, lost millions, and he very kindly saw I was a bit low, he took me in his private aeroplane for a holiday to Venice. So that's grand.
Wow.
Speaking of grand.
Grand Canal.
Speaking of grand, what's the origin of the word grand for 1,000?
Oh, grand for 1,000 is simply because it's a big amount of money. Not massively interesting, that one.
Oh, okay. Well, what we always end with our three words. Susie Dent's trio. Are they going to be financially linked?
Well, one of them is financial, but then I thought I'd give us a rest if our pockets are not feeling full of shrapnel, which is something I found out quite recently. We call coins loose change shrapnel, or at least some people do, because apparently British troops used to collect shrapnel as souvenirs from the trenches and put them in their pocket, and they jangled around just like coins. I learnt that quite recently. All right, the first one is something that none of us, apart from Richard Branson, are ever likely to use, but it's nice anyway. A marigold is £1 million.
Wow.
Marigold gold, basically until the 19th century, coins rather than notes were the norm, and so their colour was all important when it came to naming them. So you will find coins called gingerbread, yellow boys, canaries, goldfinch, all these slang terms for various denominations. And marigold is now used specifically for £1 million. But as I say, who's going to need that?
You mentioned Archer earlier, but you didn't tell me why.
Oh, yes, Archer. Well, please apologise to your friend Jeffrey, but that's a reference to his libel case because it's £2,000, which is apparently the amount that he allegedly offered as a bribe. That was the basis of the case. So
and it became known as an Archer.
Yes.
People sometimes refer to a Darwin. What's that?
£10 note.
Oh,
Just because
he was on
featured
the
on it.
£10
Yes,
note.
You'll find that quite often, actually.
Because
Should we get to
it's
my
now Jane
trio of
Austen.
words?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes, no, it's
Carry
fine.
on.
I've just looked at the time.
Okay, give me, what was the first one
So
again?
marigold
I love marigold for £1 million.
for £1 million.
Yes.
Okay, this one nothing to do with money at all, but you might need one, I suppose, if you're a bit hard up, and that's a cover slut.
A cover slut.
A cover slut Now, I have to say that this could be quite useful in my house because I always seem to, if I'm wearing something white, to spill something down myself. And a cover slut is something that an item of clothing that's worn over the top of another in order to hide a stain or a tear or any other kind of blemish.
Oh, that's very good. It's the garment that you use to cover.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I need that quite a lot. So that's a cover slut.
They used to say at certain restaurants that the most expensive item on the menu is the tie, because you're always spilling your food down the front.
Well, there you go. So my third word is actually linked to that. Caused much hilarity on Twitter. I'll leave this to your imagination. But to gerbil, which is not spelt like the animal, is Jirble, is to spill a liquid through unsteady hands.
I love it.
And again, that accounts for my cover slut usage.
Look, this is why people stay tuned for the whole of the podcast, because they may have thought, oh, God, is Gyles telling another of his stories? He doesn't seem to know anything about words at all. But I do know that there will be the Susie Dent trio at the end, and she has introduced us today to Marigold, which is 1,000,000, a cover slut, which is what she never is, because I've never seen anybody eat more daintily. But if she did spill food down the front...
No, I'm not the cover slut. It's the clothing that's...
Oh, the clothing is the cover slut.
But you can call me a cover slut if you
I
like.
won't call you a cover slut. You would make a brilliant cover girl because you're so beautiful, but you are no way a cover slut. A cover slut is the garment that might well result if you gerbled. And gerbling is spilling liquid through unsteady hands. I love that.
If you love it too and have enjoyed us even just a little bit, please can you give us a review or rate us and help us spread the word?
Yeah, this is Something Rhymes with Purple, and it's a Something Else production, produced by Paul Smith, with additional production from Russell Finch, Steve Ackerman, and Josh Gibbs, and your friend. What's he called?
He is called Gulliver, and I looked up on because at his request he asked me to look up the origin of the name Gulliver. We all know Jonathan Swift, obviously, Gulliver's Travels, but it goes back to a French word meaning glutton. You like your food.
We love our food. We love getting together, and we'll be together soon on another of these podcasts. And if you want to communicate with us, I'm on Twitter at GylesB1, GYLESB1. And where are you on Twitter?
I am on Susie_Dent.
I'm just going to put on a new cover slut.